Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Absolute Comics, the show that Sal and I bring to you every Tuesday at about 5 p.m. Eastern. Normally we go through all the comic book news, we talk about what's happening, we have a big conversation, but today we've got a special guest, Scott Snyder. Many of you might know him from his Batman run, from his Justice League run, from his independent books that he's pulled off. Witches, you write too many, man.
Witches,
you
told me.
Noctera
and
AD. American Vampire, right? American
yeah,
Vampire is
American
you.
Vampire. Well, that's Vertigo, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
Black Label. I'm sorry. It's not Vertigo anymore.
Yes,
But I was thinking American Vampire, and I'm like, wait, no, what's the name of it? It's something Vampire. No, it is American Vampire.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've most likely read something written by Scott Snyder at some point in your comic book reading career. That's the best way to put it. And today he's here to talk about his latest book. So, I actually did not prep a first question. Sal, toss it to you.
Okay, so the main headline, outside of course all the other things you're working on, We Have Demons. Final Order Cutoff is coming. This was one of your Comicsology exclusive books from Scotttober, and
Yes.
we're very excited because it's going to be available in the direct market. I know a lot of people were kind of like, "Oh, it's a digital exclusive series. Oh no!" I know it got a lot of critical acclaim. All the books that came out during that sweep did, but We Have Demons is the first physical print issue from that run.
It is. Yeah, we're super excited, and it's great to see you guys again. I missed you. I'm
too,
sorry.
man.
Like we were joking before we went live. Like every time I'm like in a different spot, whether I'm like in my car or out in my studio, or it's really pouring where we live right now. So I'm hiding from my kids in our bedroom, which is like
My favorite was the car call, because that was the one that we assumed you just weren't going to be there, and you were trying so hard to dial in from your parking lot. It was
Amazing.
But it was, and it was driving that classic car too. It was the weirdest combination of things. I was my kid's orthodontist in an old Camaro, because the other car, my wife had taken it and it was a mess. Like the whole day was like a screwball comedy. But yes, from hiding from my kids in our bedroom, We Have Demons, like the Final Order Cutoff is Monday, and we're so thrilled. It comes out from Dark Horse. It's going to be 3 massive issues. The whole story clocks in at like 110 pages or something like that. So each issue is like 35 pages of story or so, and then the print has different stuff than the digital. So it's got like the script, it's got designs, it's got the variant covers, the whole shebang. Yeah. So it's really, really fun. And the whole goal is, it's the first time anyone's done with Comicsology or anything really a digital first, that it doesn't just come out as a trade, that comes out as a single issue format series. So the hope is that if you guys order high enough, and the initial orders were already really high, we're really excited, we'll be able to do it with the other books that deserve this kind of treatment as well. Some of the books in the whole line of 8 that we're doing with Comicsology and Dark Horse might fit better as a trade for the direct market, but some books like this one and Clear with Francis Manipal, and Night of the Ghoul, which is out today, from Francesco Francavilla and me, and some of the other ones as well, like the Canary and with Panosian, and on. Like they're definitely books that fit single issue format direct market that will be good in stores with variant covers and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys order high on this one as a bellwether for the rest, we'll have the opportunity to be able to deliver those to you. And so We Have Demons, we're going all out. Like the initial orders are high enough that we're doing variant covers. So there's variant covers from like everyone that's involved in Best Jacket. So there's one from Greg, obviously, but there's also Tony Daniel from Noctera, Francis Manipal, Francesco Francavilla, Raphael Albuquerque, Jock, Tula Lotte, Jamal Eigel, and Dan Panosian. And Ariella Cristantina. So there's like a whole slew of like amazing variants. And yesterday we announced we're doing a Peach Momoko one, Eisner winner, Momoko, which is going to be signed by both me and Greg. And if you order your store orders, like I think it's around 50 issues of any kind, you get that variant cover extra signed by both of us. So we're doing all this kind of promotion for it, because the goal is to show that you can do a digital first book and then have a different version of it come out in the direct market and have it be collectible in a cool way where it still does well. And so, it goes towards what the whole kind of purpose of doing all the books this way is, which is to show the strength and synergy between digital and print, as opposed to Like when I started at DC, when digital comics started, I remember the day everybody was like terrified internally of it going day and date digital, where digital comics would come out the same day as your print comics. And everyone was like, we have to keep it the same price. We have to keep it the exact same content. It has to come out at like noon and not earlier on the day of.
Right.
And I understand all of that. But like nowadays, it feels like digital is going to wind up overrunning print or hurting print by being held in a competitive position. Because if you don't have a comic store, if comic stores shut down for COVID or any of that stuff, you go to digital. And if I go to digital, I have to pay the same price for like the same book exactly, then I'm choosing between one or the other.
That's right.
If I'm paying like a subscription where I can browse for one price of one comic a month, thousands of comics, and then I decide I have more money to go to the store and pick up the creators that I love doing, whatever they're releasing, whether I'm picking up the single issues or the trades or whatever. So I'm a believer in that as at least part of the future of comics, if not, a large part. Like, I think that kind of a methodology will work for a number of different creators, a number of different publishers. So that's what I'm really hoping here, is that like you'll read digitally, you'll rip us off and like read it for right now, if you had a subscription, you could read, issues 1 through 4 or 5 with Ghoul of all the series and Demons 1 through 3 for that. And by April or May, you'll have even more because we're coming out of the second wave in April and May and that. So nice. Same thing for one comic price, like 1 month, you could read all of it in 1 month and be done at $5.99.
So let me ask you a question then about this, because I've always been someone who's been about digital and physical, and that's always been my biggest argument about. I get a lot of digital comics, a lot of digital movies, a lot of digital video games, and it's always the same price as the physical, which has always been the big argument. Like, oh, well, why would I spend the same on digital unless I do it for convenience, but I completely get why nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that you're trying to make the physical a more of an event and stuff like that. Yeah. So what I wanted to know though is when you were writing this and you were planning this out, did you keep in mind like, okay, I know it's going to turn into a graphic novel, but I want to make it so that each issue feels separate? Because nowadays a lot of comics I read just feel like a graphic novel. A lot of times you hear the sentiment of just wait for 6 issues, read them all. Because
If you read this one, it has like very, very distinct chapters and cliffhangers where it doesn't read like a graphic novel. Each issue has like a very designed and sculpted kind of arc. And like the first one is told from the point of view of one character. Basically, if you haven't looked at it yet, We Have Demons. It's about a young woman named Lamb McCrae who essentially finds out that her father, who's this small town pastor, used to be a member of this group called the Glories that has been hunting demons for eons. And it's all based on this fun kind of science about the lightest and the heaviest elements in the universe, and how the lightest elements is used to create weapons to fight the demon virus, which is born of this heaviest, super heavy element that kind of eradicates life across the galaxies. And so it brings her into contact with all these cool characters, and her father's old partner is this part demon guy who looks just like Greg Capullo, even though Greg doesn't see it. And, it's big.
I can see it. I can definitely see it.
It's big, like heavy metal, heart on your sleeve, fists out, fun, like, deep fried in a like burrito of gore and adventure and whatever. But it's a personal book where it's about like, I wanted to write a lot of the theme of a lot of these books is kind of trying to think of how the world that my kids are facing and the kind of ways in which I hope they'll not only be better than us, but they'll find their own version of kind of a faith in themselves in the future. And so that's what the book's about. It's about her needing to find, because faith makes any kind of faith makes this kind of weapons light up, find her own version of a faith that's different than her father's and be able to fight these demons. So anyway, like, with that book, the first issue is told from her point of view. The second issue is told from Gus, the demon's point of view. And it goes, so they're very, very like issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. And the gamble was like, I didn't know if we'd be able to do single issues, but I hope that I'd hope that with this book, at least, they would trust the sales in the direct market enough to let us do it. And they did. So they've been great partners, Dark Horse. And, with the sales looking really high, promising with this book, the hope is to do it with other ones that, that feel like they would work well with retailers, that retailers would want in the store. I don't want to glut them with like, here's all the books in single issue with variant covers at the goal is to think smartly about like, and ask them and say, which ones do you think fit the best in a, monthly format? Which ones do you think fit better for you as trade? And that, and really have it be something that like has a good, healthy, footprint all around. Best Jack.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
It feels like it's actually a really nice bridge between what Benny has been talking about on this show in particular, and I'll get to bring it up to speed. We talked about how hype has kind of been missing lately in the in the direct market in comic books right now. Went from midnight releases. Of course, COVID really deflated that, but also it's still been kind of tough to recover. Not necessarily from sales, because of course over the coronavirus, the pandemic, sales did go up from physical. But we're looking for that event. We're looking for that way of getting people excited about comics, and that goes hand in hand with your approach. Of course, you went off and made not only one, We Have Demons, but also like 4 or 5 other completely different genre-bending titles, and made link-ups with Dark Horse so that those books are available Comicsology originals, but also that they're available for the direct market, and you're creating this new kind of like event around the sales of these books. So it's like, hey, come to the comic book store, pre-order this book, buy it, get excited about it, see what else is out there, and kind of tie that in. Because I don't know, have you noticed a kind of softening of excitement around the like culture of comics?
I talk about it all the time with James Tynan and a couple of my friends, and some of it I think is just kind of the tectonic movement of comics where, when I started at DC, it was DC and it was Marvel, and they were in New York, and there was a rivalry, and there were known personalities at both companies, for good or for bad, that like were in that kind of competition. And there was like a Mets Yankees kind of, who do you like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the more that they've been kind of acquired and adapted upwards by parent companies, for me, it was Warner Brothers, and then it was AT&T, and then it's Discovery Plus, and you move out to LA. And for Marvel, it's, Disney and all the sort of companies that are part of that whole kind of megalopolis that they are. There's more sort of stepping back of personalities, I think, and more of a kind of emphasis on the brands of the characters across multiple platforms. And there's really good stuff from that, where you see an opening of the doors towards multiple versions of characters across medium and within one medium, which you see with all this multiversal stuff and all of it. And there's exciting stuff. But for comics proper, I think there's also a lack of kind of centrality in that way, where it feels as though there's less of a kind of center arena where people are kind of talking to each other, whether it's about social media. There's like decentralized kind of conversations happening now with Substack and different places, and I'm part of that as well. And there's also a decentralized kind of, I think, reading arena where Marvel isn't kind of head to head with DC the same way. We don't look across the aisle at each other as much. There isn't the same kind of, these are the Marvel people and these are the DC creators, and they're, that there isn't the same kind of image, I think. Similarly, there are a lot of different indie companies, and Image is absolutely, the behemoth in the best way. But I mean, there's just a lot of different publishers trying a lot of different things. And so really great things, like from Vault to Boom and so on. And they all have different rights deals. And so for better or worse, and I think there's a lot of benefit to it for creators and empowerment and all kinds of stuff. There's also kind of, I think, a lack of kind of energy in the center of it all, where it's like there isn't kind of a main stage the way there was before quite as much. If that makes sense. Like there isn't that same like, holy shit, it's summer blockbuster time and we're all going in on this. It's a little bit more like everybody has the thing they like, and those things are a little bit kind of unattached to each other in different ways, and that can be a great way as well. It's definitely, to me at least, it feels like a seismic shift a bit, away from that kind of bullpen rivalry kind of stuff.
Right.
You guys feel is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
yeah, basically, because that's the issue that we've seen in the comic book industry recently. Like a great example is recently James Tynion just wrapped up Fear State over at Batman, And over in Marvel, Spider-Man Beyond just kicked off. And you would think that these are two huge events. Everyone should be talking about it. But every time I cover them, there's always like half the comments being like, I don't even know this was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was happening. And it's like, how? Are you reading comics? Like it's on everything that is Marvel and DC related. How are you not tracking this? But the hype
weird.
just doesn't seem to be around anymore.
It's really hard to tell, man, because like to track it into another zone. Like, you know, I think it's almost like we're all riding on the backs of more and more of these like megalodons in the cultural like entertainment landscape.
Yeah.
And there's huge benefit to a lot of it. Like, for example, I think a perfect battleground right now would be like the Comicsology stuff, which, not to shy away from, I think the interface, as somebody who has a huge stake in, you know, Comicsology as a great publisher and a place that I'm proud to be, seeing the kind of hurdles that the interface like ran up against, and seeing how many some of the problems that suddenly were there for everything from, you know, the reading experience to crediting to that, it was challenging, you know. But when first of all, like knowing everybody at Comicsology, those are like dyed in the wool comic people who are like absolutely dedicated to fixing it. So I don't have any worries about it getting restored quickly. But the thing that I'd say is that my suspicion, you know, knowing the reason for them doing it, is that opening up Comicsology and comics to the Amazon algorithms and the Amazon readership, so that if you search out as an Amazon reader who is not necessarily familiar with comics, Batman, and then you suddenly start getting Batman comic books in there. And yes, like the danger is that it could favor big creators, big publishers. And I know that all the values of Comicsology, I think, are about not letting that happen. I mean, out of the books that they've chosen to publish in Comicsology Originals, they've picked some of the most progressive, in my opinion, over the last year. So they've definitely been up there in terms of the risks they're willing to take and the kinds of books they like to publish. So they're committed, I think, to making sure that, you know, emergent voices and exciting new voices across comics are foregrounded and heard. So that is certainly not, you know, a good thing for it to, you know, point towards only mega books. But what I'm saying is, as it's fixed and as it starts working better, the idea that an Amazon readership is suddenly now being directed towards comics, I know that it's bringing an audience, or it will bring an audience that's going to exponentially increase readership in some zones, you know, and that it's all about who knows what'll happen with that. Like, right. It could wind up becoming a huge benefit for indie creators in a way that exposes them to a readership through algorithms and through things. If their comic is like, you know, this series of books, or it could be something that winds up needing a lot of work in all kinds of ways. So I don't know, except to know that the people there are committed to making it help comics and making Comicsology itself, you know, better than it was before in terms of a reading experience. But as an example of like benefit problem, it's the same kind of thing. Or like as an example, a benefit problem, like, you know, same thing with like DC right now. The sales are up, like they're doing well, you know, right. DC in all kinds of ways. But part of it is by, like we said, like decentralizing and not necessarily having it be the same immersive tapestry reading experience it was when we were younger, where all the books have a shared universe. It's more Black Label is doing its own thing over here and doing great. You know, they have the creator-owned stuff they're doing over here with Joe Hill and other people, and Black Label stuff. And then they have, you know, main superhero books, which are tighter, but not quite as connected, like a tighter line, but not quite as connected as they, and it's working. So the benefit is like, it's doing well for them, and it's an adapted, streamlined model that's not all one shared universe the same way, the way it was when I was there just a few years ago.
Yeah.
But the downside is you leave certain things behind, or you're missing certain things that a lot of people really like too. So it's just one of those moments, I think, that it's easy to get really excited or get really angry and scared, you know, about the things that are changing or the things that you love that are missing and that. But it's also important to look at all the things that are expanding and that are good for comics, in even the things that seem immediately to be I don't like this, or this is uncomfortable or that on both,
Mhm.
on all kinds of, from all kinds of
Well,
angles is what I mean.
speaking of that with the Comicsology update, we haven't actually got to talk about that on the show yet because that went down last week, and this is our first show since then.
Yeah.
As somebody who has been using Comicsology, because Comicsology is the reason I got passionate about comics. Before, when I was over in Afghanistan, over in 2011, 12.
I read your post. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But,
Yeah.
but before that, I would go to the comic book store, but the comic book store experience for me wasn't like inviting. It was I went in, I bought Spider-Man, I bought Batman, and that was it. But when I was overseas and just trying to kill time between missions, I discovered Comicsology. And this was amazing because it's like, oh, look at all these superheroes. And I can try all these weird comics that I've never heard of and not feel weird buying them. And, oh, should I know more knowledge? Should I not know? That's what I loved about Comicsology. So I'll admit, when I first saw the changeover, I was like, this is dumb. I hate it. You've had the same thing since 2011. Why did you change it?
Right.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
But that's like gut reaction as a human. You don't like to see changes to something you use on a weekly basis, daily basis.
There are real hurdles to making it as good as it was before. There are problems with the reading experience, and there are problems with crediting, and there are problems with, and like I'm not denying that at all. I just think knowing the team there and how committed they are to making sure that they're comic folk, they're not Amazon folk. Like, and their goal is to open things up to that kind of Amazon search.
Right.
So they're bringing in like this massive new influx of readers, and yet make sure that Comicsology is the same or better experience that it was before. And I know they're working around the clock, talking to, Chip and other people there all the time about them doing it. I mean, that's my horse in the race is less, I'm not like I have stake in the company of
No, you don't work there. It's
no, but I'm the same as you, Benny. Like I believe deep, the reason I did this deal, because we could have done it, the creators, like, done things, half of them at Image and half of them over here, or Panel Syndicate,
Right.
or whatever. But the benefit really was to me not just the security of the rates and the kind of having the ancillary rights, which they're great about. So we own the rights to all the stuff for TV, film, and we get a great rate for making the books. The bigger thing beyond that really was attractive was that at a time when the industry was really fragile or seemed really fragile, doing something that you believed was at least one possible way forward, or one possible kind of strengthening mechanism for the industry as a whole and the health of it. Because I do believe that we need to start thinking about models that have subscription-based sort of lending, subscription-based browsing, like Amazon Prime, like Netflix, like you pay a subscription and you have access to the library. And some things are limited and not within that library, and that's fine. And then making print, having people have more money to go to the store for print, and letting them be selective in a way that they really come away with a special experience. So it's not, because it's so expensive now too to go to the store and buy, it's not the hobby it was when we were kids. Like, so
Well, that's an argument I've had a long time ago, because you always see the people going, comics are dying, manga's winning. But also one thing that they don't seem to keep in mind is, like, if DC or Marvel are going to put out 30 books for their line individually every single month. I remember when I was in the Army, I had $20.
Right.
$20 is what I went and bought comics with. So if you weren't one of my 4 regulars, I didn't even try it. Like, that was the end of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I was on a tight budget and trying to convince my wife that I wanted to buy more comic books. That was not happening.
Yeah. Oh, and that's all. I mean, like, if we were being greedier, or I was trying to gouge people in this way, and not that I'm such a wonderful saint or whatever, but like we'd be saying, hey, buy everything singularly, buy each issue thing. But I believe in the idea of subscribing, even if it means somehow like less particular views for our books, because it also means discovering all these interesting new voices that are on Comicsology Originals. But in addition, they've got 40,000 titles that are classics, and creators from Frank Miller to Brian Vaughan and so on. And the excitement of being able to have people go and fall in love with comics and then go to the store and say, you go to because the thing is, man, like, you could always bypass the store. When I was a kid, I had a subscription to my own comics, because when I went away to, for the summer to camp and that stuff, my dad would send me my subscription. So you could always just get them from the company. but you want to go to the store because it's experiential and because it's a community and because you get things that you want to hold and keep, and that doesn't always necessarily mean just reading the floppy. It means like getting the special variant so that's why with these books, what we've tried to do is make the print something special when you go get it, as opposed to reading the digital. And, I don't know any better than anybody else, but that's my belief. Like, my belief is that this is one model that might really work going forward for some creators and some publishers, a subscription-based digital and then a special print version.
I mean, I agree with you because we've talked about this a little while now. I've felt for a good while that we're going to move into a subscription model with comic books, or it's going to go almost entirely digital, and that the physical market's going to be the collectors with the extra stuff and make it more worth me running to the store and spending the money and being a part of that community. Yeah. And as somebody who is, because I mean, I do a lot of video games, and I recently started really getting into, Xbox has a thing called the Game Pass. And what I love about it is there are the big titles on it, like what you're talking about with comic books, but there's a lot of those independent titles that I never would have spent money on, but I'm willing to try out because they're on Game Pass. I'd love to see something like that with comic books, where it's like, hey, I got my Batman, I got my Flash, but now I can check out all these people I've never heard of and see what I like about this.
That's what I mean. Like that to me is what, and the joke to me about manga and manga's taking over. That's the model of manga. The model of manga. My kids read on Crunchyroll and Shonen Jump all the time. And then the library at Barnes & Noble is huge for manga. And they go in there because they want it on their shelf. And they released it in all these great boxes. My kid just bought a Death Note thing yesterday. Like,
if I do that all the time. Any manga that I enjoy, we've got a shelf with all my graphic novels, and now I've got a manga shelf, and it's like, I've already read this, but I want it on the shelf. I want it to look good and be presentable. This is gonna be cool, and I want to kind of show off what I read, And and then sometimes you want to hide what you read when it's a manga, but you know what I mean?
Well, it's a balance. The thing that excites me about this and other forms of this, like what James is doing on Substack and other things like that, Tynan, is that they're models that people are playing with that give readers access to the material for very little money, and then ask them to if they want to purchase collectible versions of it that still help the stores. Because the model you're talking about, Benny, too, I feel like if we lean into it now, like I could just do, hey, digital only, no print, and then in print, just do a big hardcover and that's it. Yeah. That's kind of, I worry what happens if we don't start making a bridge between digital and print in a way that allows for single issues or for more kind of collectible chapter books of a series to come out in ways that keep feeding readers, over time. So for me, like the goal was to be like, hey, the print is single issue, but it's a 40-page, 50-page, really awesome thing. It's more than that. It's probably like 60 because you have the script. And there are all these different covers you can get in that. So it's like trying to find a middle where it's like you can read all of our stuff for very cheap digitally. The print is still kind of single issue, so retailers have like a monthly flow, but it's also special when it comes out in print and gives a different experience, Right. Yeah. So again, like I'm excited by everyone that can right now, and my friends like James Tynan and Jeff Lemire and people trying different things, some exclusive at Image, some doing, really going all in on Substack, some trying to find ways that they believe will create a stronger bond with fans and allow them to read material for cheaper and, then be able to go buy physicals at a store that are collectible and special and make them feel part of something from the ground up, give them a whole variety of stuff.
Well, it certainly it's reflective of it's reflective of what people, certainly younger people, are the relationship that they have with their media, right? It is subscription based, even if it is free. It's like subscribing to YouTube channels, Twitch channels, TikTokers. Like it's they consume their media that way as it is. Speaking their language might be a better way to bridge generationally that kind of media. I think.
And we're getting used to it too. I mean, I get used to it. I have Audible, right? So like a small example, like I listen to, and we live out here in the boondocks, we drive a lot. So I was like, oh, I'll get Audible, I'll get a subscription. I listen to books all the time, like doing everything. And then I always, like if I finish the book, I want the book. Like I want it for my shelf. I don't want to have just read it on Audible if I loved it. I want the book. Like I always end up buying the book or the hardcover of the book because I listen to it. And so there's that. Like to me, that's just one but it's across the board that way. I subscribe to podcasts through Gimlet. I subscribe to, all the things you do, Netflix, Hulu, whatever. And exclusive content on there is exciting. And then when I love something, like, if I love Stranger Things, my kids love Stranger Things, we buy the books, we buy the comics, we buy the, And
my brother likes to call me a shill, but if I enjoy a series or a movie, I'm the first guy that's like, all right, what merch can I get to at least support this?
Statues, hats.
I mean, Sal has seen me show up. I'm like, look at my new hat. This is Batman on it. Look at my new shirt.
That's what I mean. And that to me is that model. There's a way of doing that and still keeping physical comics healthy in stores, like without it being something where it's only like you read everything digitally and all comic stores get is merch, or that's what we're trying to do is say, here's kind of a middle ground to test it out. We're doing digital first and then single issue comics, and the single issues are more collectible than normal comics, and you have a variety of options to buy them. You can buy any of these amazing variant covers, like I said earlier, Monday Final Order, or you can buy you want to go all out, you can get the signed Greg and Scott Peach Momoko one, and that if you're playing a speculator game, because it's also there is
just out of curiosity, where do I get that, Scott? Because I want that variant.
I can give you. I'll get you guys one each if you want.
I'm not gonna say no.
People are always like, oh, people are doing it to flip. Go do it to flip it. Like, to be totally upfront, there's plenty of media interest, and we have demons. Like, they're definitely. It's one of those books that I can pretty much tell you, luckily, because we love it and it's personal, is going to get picked up for TV and film. So if you're a speculator, get those covers if you want, because it'll pay off, I promise. And then,
I just get it for my collection. I remember our first meeting when I awkwardly had all of your signed stuff behind me that first day, and I didn't even think about it. And I jumped in the interview and I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm not a stalker, but
no, but I mean, like, just talking honestly with you guys, like, we're old friends now, and we go back and we all love comics. Like, I'm not leaving comics for anything. I'm not going to do TV or whatever, any of that. Not knocking anyone that does, but I'm just saying, like, this medium, to me, like, the worst thing we can do is sort of just try to keep it what it is or what it was, as opposed to, even when it's scary or it's uncomfortable, looking at the benefits of the things that are changing and adapting in ways that could bring in a newer and younger audience. And that doesn't mean changing the core aspects of comics or characters in ways necessarily. It just means being open-minded to the sort of big shifts happening across the landscape, and understanding that we can take advantage of those in different ways to try and get more people to fall in love with comics,
It's funny you bring this up. I was just going to say real quick, one thing that I've been doing, because I haven't made it quiet. I've been trying to figure out a way to break into comic books and not be like, oh, just let me do it and I'll promote it on all my platforms. I'm trying to actually get in. And after getting shot down a few times, I decided to kind of do what you're talking about, try to come up with my own method to make my own book and see what happens. So we're actually creating it, and I'm getting it all drawn up to only put on YouTube. And if it does well, then maybe kickstart it and go that direction with it.
That's what I'm saying.
Get it to people ahead of time. Be like, look, I can do this. Or have them all shit on it, but we'll find out.
The thing is, like, the weird thing I'm saying is, like, all these things that also decentralize the conversation, like having Kickstarter or having, all these different ways of artists selling art, whether, I'm learning about, like, I'm not anyone that, I'm not supportive at this point of NFTs and that stuff or any of that. I've been asked to do them many times. I'm not interested right now or any of that stuff, but it's just not on my radar either. I'm not knocking people necessarily that do it. I have to learn more about it. It's just not something I'm into. But that said, like, one of many, many, many emerging ways that people can take, like Substack, like YouTube, like Kickstarter, like any of it, like becoming, huge on Instagram. Like, you see all these things where people find ways of taking control of their own, IP, their own intellectual property, their own talents, and making their own stuff in their own ways now. And that can detract from, I think, the normal arenas that we're used to everything playing in, because it moves conversations outside of it. But it's also really exciting because it means you're going to get things from places you didn't expect, and they're going to be cool new voices and, all of it. So that, to me, like, each one of these things that we talk about, like Substack, is a whole day conversation about how that's exciting because it allows people like me or James is making books on there. That's one choice, and I think it's exciting. I'm teaching, and for me, it gives me an outlet to teach, and it allows me to do my social media in a way I'm way more comfortable with than Twitter. And if right now, if when the algorithm of that thing switches over from the grant that they gave us to, me making the money that I'd be making anyway from social media, I'd have like a livable salary just from my social media. And so that's never available to me on Twitter or any of that. And,
Yeah.
I love the interaction with fans there and talking about what I like. And what that means is that gives me the means, the literal means to make more books and be like, oh, I can do this without having to work on licensed property if I don't want. And that's just one leg of the stool. So I'm saying creators all of a sudden have all these, opportunities. And yes, like I'm a privileged creator in the way that I've come up. I had a lot of breaks and I came up and I'm established. So I understand that it's different when you're starting, but I have a lot of friends that are starting and I try and stay really active in that community, not in some big public flashy way, but you'll see this year, especially us Best Jacket funding, we just funded, Virtuous Con, and we're doing a grant that's going to be announced soon with Women in Comics and a bunch of stuff. And we're going to start putting out books as well. So I do try and see what it's like. And I can say that it's the same way all across the cultural landscape, in my opinion. It's like full of anxiety. Even like, I'll give you an example. And again, not to just to go down a million rabbit holes, but like I've been lucky enough to be in the Witches, writer's room for the TV show. Hopefully it will get greenlit. I don't know yet, but if it does, like, I really think it's going to be amazing. But being in there and talking to writers in TV, similar things where there's more work than ever because there's so many shows for streaming where there weren't before. It was just like the main shows, on cable TV. So there's more work than ever, but the work is shorter and less certain, and there aren't residuals because they're not reruns and they're not committed jobs. So it's the same thing where it's like a wild west across the whole entertainment industry where there's like weirdly a lot of new opportunities, but less security and certainty across the board from the traditional places that used to have it, like DC and Marvel, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But there are new opportunities that are suddenly there where you're like, maybe I can take better control of my career and do things on my own in ways that don't depend on DC and Marvel. There's a different balance. And again, those companies are different than they were. They don't, when I was coming into DC, it was an exclusive contract war. Everybody was getting exclusives for 2 years, 3 years. They don't do that really anymore. You know what I mean? You hear about it once in a while, but there's not the same everybody locked down on exclusive.
Yeah, I remember that was the big thing a couple years ago. Marvel's got these guys, DC's got these guys, and that's how it works.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's an interesting, spooky, fascinating, exciting moment in comics to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like trying to get 30,000 feet above it when you start to get freaked out or you start to get overly excited about one thing. Just getting above it and being like, is this part of a larger thing happening? And there was always going to be good and bad to both, and trying to get a handle on it that way. And being like, where do I fit in this? If you're a creator, what do I feel most comfortable with out of these different new opportunities and danger zones?
Yeah, this is really starting to make a lot of sense. I as a follower of your Substack, and of course, if you are interested in Scott's talking here today, check out his class. It's available through his Substack.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But you mentioned decentralization in your Substack on one of your posts, and it inspired us to make a video about it, but also that when you started in comics looked a certain way. The industry itself it had spoken and unspoken rules associated with it, just like TV and movies and everything else. Every media had it. But you're saying you've identified, and I think in a very profound way, that there was a big significant shift in the winds when it came to subscription services and the diversification of media in general. And it looks like you're carving out a position for yourself through comics and through your own endeavors to match that change. So and kind of like lead the charge in a way to say, like, this is not the way, but it's a way, and it's at least trying something to maintain and progress to the next level. Because like if you're a hot shot anywhere, comics, movies, TV, there's a lifespan. And
Yeah.
if you don't embrace new technology, if you don't embrace the new way of thinking or doing things, you will be left behind.
Yeah.
So,
And I've always I've always wanted to take risks, with it, whether at DC or not. And for me, the fun is, the first rule of that class that I do is you always have to be, doing something. The first rule is like, you have to write the story that you'd love to pick up and read today. But what that means is
exactly.
if you're always holding your feet to that fire, you always have to be exciting to yourself. You always have to be the one that you'd like to find that day in terms of what you're doing on the page and off. So, I remember talking to Lemire 5 years ago, when he was starting to pull away from Marvel and DC more. And he was like, my model, because he was like, I see the streaming stuff heat up, is I'm going to just put out as many really strong indie books as I can at multiple publishers. And so they don't cannibalize each other at one place. And then ultimately, because we had After Death, more and more things were getting optioned, right?
Yeah.
After Death is like an extremely difficult book to make into a TV or a film.
Yeah.
Not to, if anyone wants it, it's at Sony, right? It's at Sony right now. So, I would but if it comes back to us, it could make an amazing film. So everyone, no, but I mean, it's not the most obvious high concept thing, right? That book, same thing. It got optioned very quickly. And what it made us realize back then was there's just such demand where I've said this to you before, I think, but it was just Thursday, 8:00 at night, there were some shows that we all watched, and whoever worked on those shows had tremendous job security. And now it's more everybody, you binge show, it's all volume. Every platform wants the volume of TV shows and movies that, has more than the rest. So they just fuck up everything, whether it gets made or not, who knows? But Lemire said to me, he's like, I want to have 8 or 9 books in rotation with option, meaning when you have something optioned, if you're interested as a creator and you haven't experienced this yet, when you're able to option your own stuff or sell, they're essentially, a film or TV company is renting it. They're renting it for about 3 years or so. And during that period, if they make it, you get a lot more money. It's about 8 to 10 times the amount of the option usually to actually put it on TV, which is very rare. And it's a big jackpot thing for it to make it on TV. Mm-hmm. But it's more likely that you'll have things option, and the option will return to you at some point. And if the thing is strong enough, it will probably get optioned again and go out there. And so if you think about it, and you have 8 or 9 indie books that are strong, high concept books in general, they continually get optioned every 3 years to 5 years. And you have that's money to live on just from that loop of things happening. Even if none of them ever get made into a movie or TV show, it's a repetitive income cycle like that. So again, not to get too business portfolio comic stuff, but for people that are interested in making comics that are out there, that's yet another thing that I'm it's a spooky time and it's weird, but it's also exciting because you're much more likely, if you make an indie comic, to be able to see that thing have a second life in other ancillary media, even if it never gets onto a screen, and make money from that than you would otherwise. So then in the past, when I started. So again, everything is both right now. Everything is exciting and scary. It's everything has those two sides of the coin,
Yeah.
So that's the way it feels to me,
Seriously.
I'm watching the time on when you said you had to get going, Scott. So why don't we start? We mentioned again why you're actually here, what you're trying to promote. We'll remind everyone that way.
Well, I could we should do it at night and have a drink. I could talk to you guys forever,
I mean, you ever mention alcohol, I'm on board. I mean, I may have had a few too many at your party at New York, but I don't think I made too big of an ass.
I think everyone
of myself.
did. So it's all right.
Well, it was people were teasing me because they were like, "Oh, you're lucky you did Scottober, not Scott Brewery or whatever."
That's true.
The Comicsology stuff, but I was like, "Yo, I swear to you on my kids, I would happily do it now, even with all the problems, the hurdles with the interface." Because I'm proud to be there and I know that they're going to fix it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I believe.
I mean, that's always a great sign that you're enjoying it. And as someone who's been with Comicsology as a customer for about over 10 years now, I'm hoping this is going to resolve. I'm just a little begrudgingly no, why did you do this? And mostly because
we're all reticent to change.
I'm not minimizing the issues that they're having right now at all. I'm just saying I know them well enough to know as friends that they're I believe in them in their ability to fix it quickly. I think they
Right.
will. So
Right on.
yeah. So why I'm here, Demons, the final order cutoff. Please, if you believe in anything I've been saying about digital to print, order, because the higher the numbers are, the more likely not only will we be able to do this with more of the best jacket books that we're doing, but other creators hopefully will be able to do the same thing in different formats where they could
Right.
Kickstarter, do digital their own way, and literally sell you the digital PDF and then have evidence that then they can go to the direct market. So I believe in this method. If you do, please pick it up. FOC final order is Monday. We got a lot of cool covers. And the other thing is that Night of the Ghoul is out today. Like I said, I'm really proud of this one. It's the 5th issue, second to last of this arc. Francesco and I are already talking about what we want to do next. We'll take probably about a 5 to 6 month break if we do something so that he can get way ahead again, and then
Good idea.
come back and do another monster mash together. So I hope you'll pick it up. I'm really excited about it. And then the only other thing is if you heard about the class and you're interested, sign up.
I do recommend it. I don't. You do it on a day that doesn't work for me, but I always read everything you're posting. I listen to the recording, stuff like that. So I do recommend it to anyone interested in getting into the industry. Yeah,
if you can't make it when we do it live at once a month on a Wednesday from my comic shop, usually we archive all the classes and video and audio, so you can just listen or read or any of it. Whatever you want to do. But it's over at Our Best Jacket at Substack.com. So check it out. But you guys, thank you. I honestly it's a highlight. I love getting to talk to you and hear your thoughts on all of it too. And
same here, man.
I'll definitely take you up on that offer about a beer. We'll work it out. You have a very busy schedule, so I'll figure it out with you.
I'll probably be hiding in the same bedroom and just get all cozy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being
here, man.
Anytime, brother. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Snyder. Give him a hand. Hey.
All right, so that's Absolute Comics is going to be a little bit weird today, guys, because there's not much news per se outside of the Comicsology thing, but you just heard to talk about all of that. So what I did want to talk about to kind of close out our show, to kind of get things up to date, why are you looking? I told you yesterday. You knew.
Sam, let's do it.
Everyone is on the fence about Donny Cates' Hulk. And I have a theory as to where he's bringing it. So I wanted to talk about the new Hulk run by Donny Cates right now.
Yes, and Ryan Ottley.
Ottley, yes.
I've read every issue, and I've bought every issue, and let me tell you something. I'm not a Hulk fan.
I am a Hulk fan, though.
In general. I'm not
if you guys don't know me, I'm like the 90s edge kid. Like Wolverine, Batman, Azrael, Punisher. When I was a kid, it was Spider-Man 2099. You know why? He has talons.
Because he cuts you. He's the edgiest character from 100 years from now. Yeah, man. But that being said, I loved Immortal Hulk. I was like, it's Donny Cates. I gotta read this book. It's on the ground floor. And every time I read Hulk, I was like, what in God's name is this book? But with
I have a theory.
But with an added caveat of I keep reading it. It takes me 10 minutes to read every issue, and I'm like, what the hell was that? But I still buy every single issue. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be something here. Then he has a theory about why this book is the way it is. Go ahead.
As far as Starship Hulk goes, him driving the Hulk,
it's a starship. Yeah.
That is the part that just makes me go, what? Why? What? How? Huh? What? Now?
Because it's comics. Because you can. Because they've never done it.
And you're right, but I got to see how it plays out, because if it just ends with him being like, and now I drive him home, I'll be like, dude, that was dumb.
I actually, because you have a theory about the overall concept. Theory. I have just a very brief theory about why people don't like this run.
Okay.
And I think it has.
All right.
I think it's because Hulk fans.
They're
not, but they're not like when you're a Hulk fan, because you're a fan of many different characters, the Hulk included. I'm telling you, there are people out there who the Hulk is their number one character, and the Hulk is such a different character from Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, the Punisher, Ghost Rider. It's such a different character, and I think that one of the biggest things about the Hulk is that he's pure strength.
Yeah,
and part of, his costume, you know how the Avengers must have been when Marvel was starting to get huge because of the movies, they were racking their brains about how to make a logo for the Hulk, right? What's Thor? Hammer. Spider-Man, his face or webs. But Captain America, shield. Hulk, fist. But because his costume is his whole body. He has raw human strength, right? When you cover that up in robot nonsense, it just does something to a Hulk fan that goes like, "No, I don't want to look at that." Like, put Hulk in armor, people are like, "No." You put a shirt on him, forget it. No, his costume is pants. End of story.
I think the only costume that ever flew beyond the pants was like the World War Hulk, Gladiator Hulk look.
Yes,
people seem to like that one,
right? But that's because because the clothes were minimal and they represented strength. It was gun battle. Like people liked the gun belts in the 90s because again, it was like he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger but green. Still represented strength. I think that if you put like a helmet on him and you give him like a bunch of tubes and stuff, people go like, that ain't Hulk anymore. Like that's Weapon X.
I think that's the problem with Spaceship Hulk's outfit.
Yeah.
I never thought about the outfit as being the issue.
No, but I think
I don't like the
subconsciously it's like, that's the
visor.
problem.
Yeah, I don't like the visor.
That's right.
I don't like
you want
any
to
of it.
see him. You want to. He is one muscle. I want to see like just a
One
big
muscle.
dude, just a big dude with big muscles. And when you cover that stuff up, it does something to Hulk fans. I think that's subconsciously why people were like, boo. Even though there's never not a moment in the book where Muscle Hulk is smashing something massive. But it's in the mindscape, so it technically doesn't happen. So I think that's why people are kind of like upset about the book. Anyway.
So I mean, I'm not upset by it. I'm just like coming out of Immortal Hulk into this. I have faith because Donny Cates has shown me on Thor, on Venom, on all of his books, that goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere, it calls back, it does a great run.
And it's obviously going something. It's like telegraphing, like, we're heading in this direction.
Right, but what I think he's doing, and here's my theory on it, he has essentially moved the Hulk to a different Marvel universe where every superhero is gamma irradiated so that the Hulk will have to fight the Marvel universe again, but super gamma irradiated versions. Now, if you have not read it, this is my brief spoiler for the cliffhanger of issue 4, but that was your chance to leave. But at the end of issue 4, they kick Peter Parker out of a plane. And the other banner makes the comment of they killed Parker. And I'm like, oh, so they just kicked him out of a plane? That's lame as hell. Like,
Yeah.
only for him to grow like 10 times bigger than the Hulk. And he's a Spider Hulk.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, that's what he's doing. We're going to probably see Spider Cap, Spider Thor, Spider. Like, I know some of them are already dead, but.
Yeah,
like,
some of them are dead, but or hulked out Cap, hulked out Thor, hulked out whatever.
And that's what he's going to fight. It's the Hulk in a spot where he can fight hulked out versions. This is the theory. So if it doesn't go this way, don't yell at me.
Right.
But Cates has made his own Marvel universe to smash.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think that's cool. Like, number one, I think that's a fair theory to make. I think that makes sense. There are a few, like, he can't smash any X-Men characters because I think they all died.
Like they killed all of Krakoa. They're like, those mutants are gone.
Oh, yeah. No, they just blow up Xavier's mansion. It's hilarious. But, like, I don't think I remember Wolverine being there, so I bet there'll be a Hulk-verine, but not like, what's it called? Like Weapon H, you know? So I think...
Whatever
I think
happened to Weapon H?
He's on the the Savage Avengers. That's coming up.
Is he? Okay, good.
Yeah,
You're
Weapon H. They're bringing back a bunch of characters for that book, including Flash Thompson. Like, he's going to be on that team.
Because Weapon H was a cool idea that never went anywhere.
No, but
like
I
you
know
took the
creative team
Hulk
on
and
that.
Wolverine, and that was amazing. And the plot was good. The way it worked was great. And I'm like,
yeah,
what happened to him?
Yeah, I know that the writer on that book is really hyped to use Weapon H. So you'll see. I guess that's cool. I mean, I thought that was a terrible idea.
Really?
But, yeah, I was like, oh,
Hulk
come on.
With Wolverine
claws. That sounds like a toy, but at the same time, I will say, like, I have been on record in saying there are no bad ideas, just bad writers. So, listen, I'm hyped that there are fans of Weapon H and that he's getting another shot. Because I don't think that... honestly, I feel like Weapon H, when he emerged, was the worst time for that character to emerge. It was a lot of stuff going on with Hulk and Wolverine where it's like, this is not the time to merge those characters right
Wasn't...
now.
I can't remember when he came out, because it came out, like, right...
I think it was Hot Claws. I think it was during, there were a lot of...
Because Wolverine shows up in the book, so he was alive.
Right, like, I think it was just that there was a lot going on with both those characters, and then to go, oh, like... I'm already kind of stressed out over both those characters. To introduce a merging, like a character that's essentially a hodgepodge of those two characters at the same time is like, you're kind of just reminding me this is all silly. So
Oh,
please don't
that's
do
right. He
that.
came out in Totally Awesome Hulk.
Oh,
So we had that very
the-
weird Greg Pak creation.
That was not a good time.
No, it was not. And I'm pretty sure that was right around the time Wolverine just came back, Hot Claws time, like you said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, somebody asked, by the way, if you look at the cover, like Flash looks like Eddie Brock anti-Venom, but he is Agent Anti-Venom. The writer suggested that like he's got his own journey going on in that book, and like there's an explanation for why he looks like both Agent Venom and Anti-Venom. So that'll be explained.
What irritates me about Flash Thompson, just to go on another tangent, because we're trying to
Yeah.
pad time to the end of this episode.
We could just read questions if that's the case, but yeah.
But I'm saying because I'm a Flash Thompson fan. Everyone
know.
knows that. I
He's a
love
great
Agent
character,
Venom.
yeah.
I love the original. Why was his return in that weird Carnage book?
Because
That wasn't
was the
about
only place they
him?
could put it.
Like, why doesn't he have a book again? You've revitalized him. You gave him a role. He's out there, and
Yeah.
we're not doing anything with him.
I think it's just because nobody has a strong new Flash Thompson book idea outside of those who are making that new Avengers book. But like even then, he's on a team. It's not going to be about him specifically.
Right.
It's, gonna be about him on a
It's
team.
like when they moved Scarlet Spider away from having Scarlet Spider books.
Yeah.
Back when it was Kane.
Yeah, and put him on the New Warriors, and it was like, that's just a Scarlet Spider book with a bunch of characters in it.
Yeah, that's all that was at the time.
Yeah, but didn't
because
they,
he wasn't
like-
even on the team, if you remember correctly. He was like, "I'm not on your team," and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Scarlet Spider's gone." Yeah, he left. He literally walked out the door.
Yeah,
He's
he
gone.
left. He's an Iron Man now. But and that wasn't even him. That was Ben Reilly. I'm sorry. But like the point is, didn't they set that up at the end of King of Black? Wasn't that in Venom 200 where it was like Eddie Brock's like, "I'm back and I'm doing this. This is my new status quo," and then no one did anything with him. Like
Yes
remember
and
he's like,
no.
I'm hunting other symbiotes. Like
Well, it was weird because yes, they did that with him, and they said Dylan is the new Venom, and then we came in and Al Ewing and Ram V changed that a little bit. Dylan is still the new Venom, but not willingly. He stuck doing it. Didn't want anything to do with it, which I'm like. But we ended the last one with him swinging away. But okay, whatever.
he liked that. He picked the chains.
He picked the chains, right? So they revamped it. But what I found weird about the current Venom run with Al Ewing and Ram V about doing the Dylan thing is they made it so that Dylan doesn't want to be with Venom. But
like
now
that.
he is again. So we're literally back to the status quo that we were at Venom 200. Like we took a 2-issue break to get back to it again. And Eddie
Right, which
Brock,
you didn't need to. Yeah.
and then Eddie Brock is dead and revived in the future. Like
Yeah.
I'm digging what they're doing, but just like the Hulk book, I'm like, where is this going?
What? Right. It's not. There's no clear defined path.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating, and I totally get that. I'm not reading any of those books. I don't care.
That's why you and I get along so well. I read the stuff you don't read, and you read the stuff I don't read.
This is true. Yeah. But like, I'm not reading Venom, but I did, and I dug it, and it was good. And I'm like, but yeah, no, With respect to this, I couldn't even tell you. But I will say that like at least Flash is back. Like when they brought Flash back, I'm like, good, because you know what? Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like if people want a Spider-Man who kills people, Superior Spider-Man. If people want a fun like war-themed secret agent kind of Venom character, bring Agent Venom back.
Yeah.
Like, make Flash Thompson a Venom.
That's
End
why
of
he
story.
was great. It was the ideas of Spider-Man, but actually different.
Right, like if you're not gonna like if Seeker is never gonna be on Dylan, then give Brock Seeker
Yeah.
or Sleeper or whatever it was. I don't remember the name of the green cat one.
I think it's Sleeper.
It is Sleeper. You're
Yeah.
right. Well, in any case,
And I agree.
give
I was actually
Brock
going to
that
talk.
one.
I was actually going to talk about this with my brother today about how they keep just every Spider person. They just make him Spider-Man again. Like a great example. We've been covering 2099 here on the Comicstorian channel.
Yes.
And we were debating today, should we move forward after we end the initial 37-issue run? Because there's that weird spin-off that wrapped up plot points that came out like 5 years later because they just kind of
that does wrap up their plots though, like with Doom and the future.
So
and
we're like,
Force and
well,
stuff.
we'll do that. And then I was like, and what about the 2099 modern day one that came out during Superior Spider-Man? And we both agreed.
Oh, the modern one, yes, but not the Time Storm one.
No.
Skip that one.
But we were talking how, like, remember when they did this in like 2016? Superior was out, brought back in Miguel, and instead of doing another 2099 book, they decided to put him in modern day, and he just acted like Spider-Man.
that sucks. Like, that's like, because it's, okay, so you don't bring Miguel, because what's the difference between Miguel and Peter? Miguel's a jerk. That's like the big difference, right?
Right.
So like, but I don't have a shortage of jerk Spider-Men in the present.
Not in
Right?
2016. We had Ben.
Yeah, in 2016, I had Ben, Kane, and Otto.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And then they were like, how about Miguel too? And it's like, Miguel's in the future. You don't. Here's the thing.
His
You don't
one
have
defining
somebody-
factor that separates him is cyberpunk future Spider-Man.
That's it.
And they got rid of that whole thing, and they were like, he's in the present.
No, there are two things. That and his costume, and they changed both of them. And it's like, what are you doing? I completely agree. The reality is you should not publish a 2099 book unless you have a writer that can sell a book that likes Blade Runner. If you don't have that, then don't bother making that book. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2099 is a fun, really good book. The one from 1992 or 3. Because
I'm
Peter
covering it right
David
now.
was
It's
like,
doing a lot of crazy
yeah,
stuff.
Exactly. Peter David likes cyberpunk. That's it. Like, you know, the reason why that book like slaps and Hulk 2099 sucks is because nobody had a good idea for Hulk 2099. Punisher 2099. If you haven't done Punisher 2099, you got to do it because
I want to do that in Doom. Because
Doom is the one.
I didn't
Okay.
know the story behind Doom, and we just did the
It's-
crossover where the Thor version shows up, and they all have to fight him.
It's really
and I'm
good.
like, what is going on with Doom? I really want to know. So I looked into it. I'm like, I want to do Doom.
Do Doom. Don't do Punisher until later because it's so stupid. Like, Punisher 2099 is dumb. Like, I'm sorry, but it's dumb.
But dumb in a good way or dumb in a bad way?
I think it's the perfect kind of dumb,
Okay.
but it's the kind of thing that I would not tank I wouldn't tank it for Punisher. I do Doom first because Doom is awesome. Like, Doom is legitimately cool,
Yeah.
and Punisher is legitimately stupid. So, you know, it's more like when you do Doom, people are like, are there more? You can be like, yeah, I'll do Punisher. Because at least it's interesting. There's this amazing sequence where a woman he loves is turned into glass, and he hugs her, and she shatters, and he just grips the blade, like the shards, and blood pours out of his hands, and he screams. It's just, there's so many, like, horrible, for a while, he runs around wearing this, like, pixelated Punisher logo mask. There's a lot of really crazy stuff in Punisher.
The whole
2099.
idea of Punisher, because once again, he's in that crossover. It's funny
Yeah.
because I'm doing the crossover, and we get to the X-Men, and I'm like, all they did was do a bunch of names in a hat to make it 90s edgy. Bloodhawk, Murder Fist. Like, what is wrong with you? Why is this?
X-Men 2099 sucks.
And here's what blows my mind about X-Men 2099. Why did they use Wolverine? Because even in 90s, Wolverine lived
no.
forever.
Because back then they were like, no, there was a mandate, like, no one can come back. Like, it has to be that, like, literally you will never see any original characters again. Like, it is the future. Like, they're all gone. Like, that was a very strict mandate. They were like, nobody can come back. Now they broke that a little bit, but like for the longest time, which is actually kind of cool because it's very pure. Because, like, here's the thing: if you read 2099, especially back then, you were like in an ocean with no life preserver. You're like, I don't know anything. Like, if you love X-Men, you read 2099, it's like not X-Men.
Yeah, at all.
You're like, what is this? And it's like, if Wolverine were there, you'd be like, thankfully, okay, I got some footing here. No, you have to like a character. Now, hopefully, if you do like X-Men 2099, you don't like Tina because she doesn't make it past the 3rd issue. But everybody else, you know. But
No,
yeah,
I
like,
just find the whole 2099
it's crazy.
Because the more deeper I go down this rabbit hole,
Yeah.
Because I read it when I was a kid and I don't remember anything about it, and it never went beyond Spider-Man anyway.
Yeah,
so we
no, of
decided to
course.
cover it on the channel. I'm like, oh, it'll be fun because no one ever covers all of Spider-Man 2099. They always
No.
cover the origin book.
I just when we did, it was just the first volume. I
Yeah,
just
no
did the
one
first
talks
volume,
about it
moved on.
beyond that. And
Yeah.
like I'm remembering all of this stuff as I'm going through it, and I'm like, this is crazy. And like Punisher showed up in the crossover, and I'm like, Punisher's in his mind. He's just two people. What?
Dude, the Punisher is inspired. He finds one of Frank's old bunkers and he reads the war journal, and it basically makes him go crazy. And he's like, I'm him now. And it's just like, what? No, you got what you should do, because you could use your connections to do this. Call like Peter David, and you could record the interview, but it won't do well. But like, you could talk to him and just be like, ask him every question about the formation of 2099, because like it's a fascinating story that I've never really had answered, and it would add to it, because you're like, especially because he wrote all of 2099 Spider-Man, which is the only thing people read. But like, it would add to it, because like the story, like what were they thinking at the time? Like I have an interview with Stan Lee that I read literally the other day that's from that, where he wrote Ravage, and they like basically created 2099 so that they could give Stan Lee a book again.
Right.
And so Stan wrote the eco-terrorist Ravage 2099.
Ravage is great because he also pops up in that 2099 storyline, right?
Sucks. Yeah.
But not only that, but they tried to make him important. Like,
Yeah, he has to be important because he's
it was
Stan's
Spider-Man,
character.
Punisher, Doom, and Ravage, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why is Ravage important in this?
Because Stan created him. Dude, and what's great about Ravage is it's not just like, okay, so Stan created Ravage, and it's like the only book that Stan wrote for in like 20 years for Marvel. But also, the reason... Okay, so Stan wrote Ravage.
Yeah.
And because Stan created Ravage, that's why Carnage is called Carnage. The plan was to call him Ravage. And they were like, oh, we can't use that. Stan's making a book called Ravage. So then they went, oh, well, then we'll call him Chaos. And then they went, oh, we can't do that because, like, I don't remember if it was because Brian Pulido's Chaos Comics was happening at the same time and Lady Death was huge at the period, or if it was because there was a character named Chaos. But, like, they went from Ravage to Chaos to Carnage, and now they've got... And can you imagine, like, them not using Carnage? That, like, or them wasting Carnage on one of those 5 symbiotes? It's Phage and Lasher and Carnage. Ugh. Like, no! Carnage is so iconic and so important,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was gonna be Ravage.
That would have been great. That would have been awesome.
Anyway.
But, all right, guys.
And Hulk sucks.
And
Hulk is garbage.
The best part about Hulk, last thing I want to say about Hulk is,
Yeah.
so we got to 2099 Unlimited, which is, what they did was, they did 12 issues of Spider-Man 2099. He did well. They launched 2099 Unlimited as the intro to Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's how it gets weird.
Oh, yeah,
So
the
what they
cover?
did was all the covers were Spider-Man versus Hulk. That's what they did for those.
Yeah.
And it was like a spin-off book where Spider-Man went over there. Spider-Man never meets Hulk. I had to Google the original Unlimited 2099 to find out Hulk was the backup story. Yeah. Spider-Man was the intro story, and they don't meet.
It's such a lie. I have that issue because I bought it for the exact same reason.
Yeah, you're like, they're going to fight? What?
Yeah. Cool. Nope. Spidey has like virtually no interaction with anybody until he doesn't. Until they're like, okay, we want to do like a crossover, so he has to deal with everybody now. And it's like,
but even the Thor crossover, he deals with Thor, gets thrown out of the battle, teams up with Punisher, and they've got like 2 lines every comic until he gets there for the final fight.
Yeah.
Where he literally goes, "You're Doom, aren't you evil? Huh. I am tired of you, little one." And then they fight, and that's the end of it. Like,
yeah. Well, I won't give it away, but let's just say that you won't see the end of Miguel and Doom interacting with each other. But yeah, man, 2099 is a crazy ride, and what sucks is like, you know, they've tried a lot, like that Time Storm book, the 2099.
They're doing it again
series,
this year as a
and
celebration.
they're doing it again this year. I don't think anybody really gets it. Like, it's never hit that level again. Even the books that suck, they have a really like interesting style and feel, and no one's writing them without also thinking like, oh, wink. Like, no one's just writing them being like, and then like this, you know, like the public eye investigate. Like, there's no joy and no like anything can happen. It's just like kind of like well, I always liked that book 30 years ago, so now I'm gonna like wink and nod and make fun of it. And it's like, just no, like it. Rick Leonardi's art is never better than it is in Spider-Man 2099. And it's like, because it's cool and dark and weird. And when he draws stuff in the main universe, it looks weird. Yeah. Like, it really works in that universe.
I'm going to end our discussion here with this last thing.
Please.
I don't even know what happened with that recent 2099 Nick Spencer thing. What was that?
I didn't even bother.
It came out, I saw it and was like, that's cool, and then it was gone.
No. That's Marvel is not afraid of just abandoning something nowadays. Like, remember New Warriors?
Yeah, I do, because I went over there because Scarlet Spider was on it, and then it immediately, like, after the first arc, he's like, no, I'm not joining your team, bye.
Yeah.
And that was it, and we didn't have our Scarlet Spider book anymore either.
No. Well, they canceled Scarlet Spider, and Yost, I think, took over for New Warriors and was like, I mean, I'm not going to stop doing Scarlet Spider. I mean, people read that book.
Well, they used it
as
a quick way to wrap up the plots that he wasn't able to finish on Scarlet Spider.
Good for him, because like at least if you were reading that book, because I fell off of Scarlet Spider eventually, but like if you were reading that book and you never got closure, that sucks. So like,
The
at
only
least
thing
you
they never
got
gave
that.
us closure on was they closed up all the plots that weren't the other.
Right.
Because he became the other for that book.
Which is such a good use of that character. Like I love that. I love that Kane became the other. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, all right. Well, this has been Absolute Comics. We get together every Tuesday. If the episode, we occasionally stream it over here on YouTube for all you guys watching over here on YouTube. But it does go live every Tuesday over at twitch.tv/Comicstorian on the podcast network, where we stream shows every Tuesday and Thursday. Don't forget to go check out We Have Demons. Go pre-order that one, the physical edition, and go check out Sal over at Comic Pop. How did your 100K special go? Was it good?
It went great. It was almost 8 hours long.
Oh my god. I go like
Yeah.
3 hours and I lose all my steam.
I know. No, we were literally we ran for 7 hours and 47 minutes. You can catch it on youtube.com/comicpopreturns, or you can subscribe to youtube.com/comicpop and get us to like 100,005.
Nice. Very nice. But all right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next Tuesday. There will be no show Thursday. I'll talk about that in 1 second when we're not recording, but thank you guys so much.